Laura,
you.
I got to start with I got to start with this crazy question because I know your father somewhat, not like you do, not like the family does, but I think all of America knows your father enough to say nobody leads him around by the nose. Um, but we are now hearing that Israel has dragged Donald Trump into this war, and it's coming from the president, some of the president's former supporters in right-wing media, saying that he's just been duped by Israel. How do you respond to that?
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. The only person who makes decisions for Donald Trump is Donald Trump. And you don't actually have to even spend that much time around him, Glenn, to know that that's the case. He takes, account of what people around him have to say. He likes to get a lot of opinions, a lot of thoughts, which any smart person and any good leader would actually do. But then he's the person who makes that decision. And let's be really clear, when it comes to Iran, this is a regime that has been for nearly 50 years chanting death to America and death to Israel. They call us the big Satan. They call Israel the little Satan. They were on the verge of developing a nuclear weapon. That would have been detrimental not only to the United States, but to the entire world. And this president has always said he wants to put America first. You don't have an America if Iran has a nuclear weapon, because we know they would have deployed it on us. They want to wipe us off the map. So the reason that we went in, the reason that this was the time, according to this president and all of his intelligence, is because you can't allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon. The talks were going nowhere between, Jared, my brother-in-law, and Steve Witkoff. This was the right time. So no one has made any decision other than this president, based on the intelligence, based on his assessment of things, based on the fact that he wants to put America first and protect American citizens above all else.
The nuclear weapon thing. I've been on Iran my whole career. I've been talking about Iran. They're extraordinarily dangerous because they're 12ers. They're Shia 12ers that believe in the 12th Imam is going to return. And so a lot of their speeches from their president has been in the past, "Oh, Allah, help me have the strength to hasten the return of the promised one." That is like Book of Revelation stuff, really, really scary. To hasten the return of the promised one, they have to wash the world in blood and burn it in the fiery furnace of the Islamic fury, okay? That sounds like a nuclear weapon, that last part. And they're dead serious because they actually believe these things. But I have heard the nuclear weapon thing for so long, I don't think that rings like a defense with people because they're like, first of all, remember and your father was all over this when it happened, the Iraq war, when that happened, the, weapons of mass destructions lie that we got. But what was it that tipped him on this time? Because I have personally been told over and over again for 25 years, they could be weeks away. What was it this time that made him go, that we have to take care of it right now? Or was it a bunch of stuff, including that?
Yeah, listen, I obviously don't get the detailed intelligence briefings like he does. But I'll just say this. I think that this president has always known, and maybe he knew more than ever after Butler, Pennsylvania happened, that he was really made for this moment. And I mean that in so many different senses. I think he definitely, without a shadow of a doubt, believes that his life was spared in Butler, Pennsylvania, so that he could go on to lead this country. And he was made for such a time as this. I don't know, Glenn, that you would have ever gotten another person in that office at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue who would have had the guts to do this. People, treated Iran with kid gloves for so long. My God, we had Obama sending pallets of cash. Biden sent cash back to them as well. He had no strength on the world stage. And I don't know that this president thinks that there would have ever been anyone else who would have seized a moment like we have right now to take care of a problem that would have gone on in perpetuity. And let's face it, we know if they had the means to do it, they would wipe us off the map.
Yes.
And so, like so many other things, other presidents have talked about it before, much like, recognizing the Golan Heights and moving the embassy in Israel, in Israel from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. This is something this president said, so many people have talked about it before. I'm actually going to do it. I'm actually going to do the right thing here because I actually don't think he thought anyone else would have the guts to do it. And he's probably right.
So I 100% agree about Butler. I mean, he told me what he was thinking when he was down on the ground with a pile of Secret Service agents. He was like, "You're not afraid. Get up. This is embarrassing. You're not afraid of these people. Get up. You're the president." And I thought, boy, there's like nobody that kind of thinks that way when somebody's shooting at you. There's almost nobody that thinks that way. So he was made for this time. But I was thinking this weekend, one reason I could never be president, and maybe because a lot of people like me have been president in the past, he seems to know what he is the right thing to do, but he has this ability to actually pull the trigger where I thought that all this weekend, I know he's surrounded by people going, "Mr. President, this could end poorly." And he knows that it could end poorly. He knows that it'll be bad if it does end poorly or drags on for his campaign and for the Republicans, which hurt him in other ways. But he just makes this decision anyway because he believes this decision is right and to hell with the consequences. That's really unusual. What gives him that?
Yeah, and you know what, Glenn? He's sort of had the same attitude about all of this from the beginning. I actually remember before he came down the golden escalator in 2015 to announce he was running for president, I remember him telling us, "You know what, kids, we're going to do this the right way. And if that means that I go in and I get one term in office, then that's okay with me because I want to do the right things for this country. And I want to make sure that things are set in motion properly because they haven't been for so long, because so many people have been afraid to do things the right way because of politics, because of what you just said. Maybe it impacts the Republican Party negatively or whatever it might be." He's always felt like the consequences maybe are he takes them seriously, but I think he understands the bigger picture. And I think he understands that this is so much greater than him, and it's so much greater than even this moment. This is about the future of our country, the future of the world, and he's always had this attitude of, "I will do the right thing no matter what it costs me." My God, look at what this man has been through. He's pressed on, and any other normal person would have said a long time ago, "Enough is enough. I can't do this." But no matter what it is, he really is a unique individual, and I do believe that he's a perfect person for this time, for this office. And my God, forget my proximity to him. I think all the time about how lucky I am just to live in a time when Donald Trump is president of the United States. It's incredible stuff.
I actually pray Thanksgiving all the time that we're living in these times. Just to witness what we're witnessing right now is really a remarkable time to be alive. I heard you talk about the UFO thing, and I don't want to get into the UFO this time. I'd really like to, but I know we're short on time. But you said the way your father answered about UFOs, he didn't say something, and you all looked at each other like, wow, he's not saying this, so I wonder if he knows. His countenance never seems to change to the average person. You're watching him, and you'd have no idea, when he's at Mar-a-Lago this weekend, that he's launching a war. You'd have no idea. Did you see a countenance change? Do you ever see a countenance change when he's weighing something this heavy? Does the family notice? I don't know what he's wrestling with, but he's wrestling with something.
To a certain extent, if you know someone really well, you see a little bit of change in them. But, he has an amazing ability as well to sort of, compartmentalize things, maybe is the right way to describe it. And, when he's with us as a family, he's a family man, and he's my father-in-law and my husband's dad and my kid's grandfather. And then when he's on the job and he's doing what he needs to do, he's fully focused on that. But, I'll say the only time I've ever seen him really change is truly after he left office on January 20th of 2021. That's maybe the one moment I saw a different side of him, and he was definitely down, and he was definitely worried, not about himself, but about the country, I believe. And he knew that day that he was going to have to come back because he wasn't finished and there was so much more to do. But no, it's pretty amazing to see a person who can do as much as he does. And, he likes to talk about the weave whenever he gives a speech, right? He'll have words written. He'll have a teleprompter speech. But we all know Donald Trump does not like to say to the teleprompter, and he weaves all around. But he ultimately comes back to the point, and he's got this ability, I guess, to compartmentalize things and focus on what needs to happen in the moment, and not let it weigh on him other times.
His speech, speaking of taking on teleprompter, was the most focused I've ever seen him on teleprompter with the State of the Union. I think it was the best speech he's ever given in performance and also in strategy. I mean, it was obvious that he was setting this really brilliant trap of stand if you believe that, the government's first job is to protect U.S. citizens. And that seemed, that was clearly planned and really well done. But I got the impression when they weren't standing for other things, or they were shouting while everybody else was chanting USA, USA for the hockey, you had, what's her name, Ariana, what's-her-face, Presley, actually chanting KKK, KKK. And your father-in-law looked at the left a lot of times and said, you people are crazy, or I can't believe you're not standing. That seemed like he was genuinely surprised by how far they've gone and are willing to show it. Do you think is that accurate?
Well, God, aren't we all surprised by how far they've gone? Aren't we all surprised?
I am.
Lynn, that at this point, it feels like we have, I said this the other day on Fox, it seems like there are more people who are pro-America in Iran right now than people in our own Democratic Party here in the United States who are pro-America. It feels like it's not about Republican versus Democrat or left versus right. This is about those of us who love this country and those who hate this country. And when you are willing to side with terrorists, when you are willing to say that, Nicolas Maduro, a drug lord who is responsible for hundreds of thousands of American deaths because of the poison he sent into this country, the way he terrorized his own people, that's a bad thing to bring a guy like that to justice. You can't admit that taking out Ayatollah Khamenei, a person who has also been responsible for countless torture and death of his own people, of the American people. My God, you can't admit that that's good. You have a real problem. But he's exposed so much of that. And I think that, he'll go down, I think, in the history books as, if not the greatest president, one of the greatest presidents in the history of our country. There's no doubt about it. The things he's been able to do just in the past year are remarkable. But one of the big things that this president did is he exposed a lot. He exposed the legacy media for being fake news. He coined that term. And so many people initially were like, what are you talking about? They get it now. He's exposed the rot in Washington, D.C., and he's exposed the Democrats for being absolute lunatics. And I agree with you. I think the State of the Union speech was one of his best speeches he's ever given. And believe me, I've been to a lot of Donald Trump speeches in my life. That was one of his best. I loved every second of it. 2 hours flew by. And if nothing else, he showed live on television to the American people, here is what you get when you vote for Democrats. People who aren't willing to stand for our service members, people who are going to chant KKK instead of USA in a moment where the American hockey team comes back. It's insane. They're crazy, and he's been able to expose all of it.
Let me ask you one last question. So I'm running out of time. I know you have to go too. But I have been trying to explain the big picture. He is changing the way the whole system works all around the world. And I believe he has gone after the system that is keeping people in their place and not allowing, people to get into business and do all the things. He's got to take all those gatekeepers that are global off of people's back. And he's done that. But people see that as not affecting them. And I don't think they're going to really understand what Donald Trump has done for another maybe 5 years, because it has such long-term ramifications. But his own voters are saying, well, yeah, but the economy. And there are signs the economy is doing much better. Is he hearing that? Because the worst thing that can happen is try to convince people that, no, you're not feeling it. Is he aware of that, really listening to his people? Because I've never seen him out of touch. But if that doesn't change, we're going to have a hard time in the election.
Oh, I agree. And believe me, he's focused on that. And yes, this is not Biden 2.0, where they tell you that inflation is transitory and that you're just imagining prices are rising whenever everything is more expensive. Look, the reality is, if you look at the numbers, things are trending in the right direction. And Senator Markwayne Mullin gave me this analogy, and I think it is so spot on. He said, changing this economy back to what it was when he left office is almost like turning around an aircraft carrier. It takes 1 mile to turn around an aircraft carrier. This stuff doesn't happen overnight. But I think, you have the one big beautiful bill. So much of that will actually start to be felt by the American people this year. And it is about how they feel, and they have to feel it to believe it. And so, yeah, I think he has to continue to talk about what he's done. He is absolutely listening to the people of this country. I mean, I don't know that we've had a president who has listened more to the people of this country or been more willing to communicate with the people of this country than Donald Trump, and be as transparent as he has been on every possible front. But it takes time. And I do think we need to remind people of that. Look at the gas prices. Gas prices are under $3 a gallon right now in most states in America. In some places under $2 a gallon. Whenever you open up the pipelines, whenever you allow us to drill, baby, drill, whenever you do all the things that he has done for this economy, investment, real wage growth, that actually does impact people, but it doesn't happen overnight. So I get it. He hears it. He understands it. And I think people, hopefully, by the second quarter of this year, are going to start feeling that.
Laura, I know your entire family has paid a deep, deep price. My family prayed for all of the members of your family, even though you weren't there at Mar-a-Lago when this guy, stormed the gates a couple of weeks ago. I can't imagine what it's like to be a Trump right now. We pray for you and appreciate it. And thank you for being on. Appreciate it. God bless you.
Oh, my gosh. Well, thank you. Thank you for the prayers. Thank you for everything. And we appreciate you, Glenn. Thanks so much.
Thanks. You bet.